Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, where it is hot, hot, hot. And I'm freezing in my basement in my studio here. I've actually got a blanket over my legs, but we're not going to complain because it's far better than the alternative, which is snow here in Canada. So we're enjoying a very warm summer here in Southern Ontario. And today I am all about a prototypical or stereotypical, I guess, summer bundle called Sunrise Sailing. Now, this bundle is an online exclusive bundle, which means it's only available in my online store. You won't find it in any catalog. Exclusive doesn't really mean exclusive, just means it's not in a catalog. But it is a fantastic bundle, and you are going to see me make 3 projects today. And then I'll show you a few more that I've been playing with. And I'm hoping it will highlight a bundle that maybe you missed. It's easy to miss some of those online exclusive products. We actually get new releases every other month. So it's easy to miss them because they come fast and furious. And if you're not paying attention, you might not be aware. So I thought I would highlight this fun and fabulous bundle today. So if you are watching, give me a hello. Let me know where you're watching from. I see the Maritime Connection is here. We've got Jeannie K and Alexina. Welcome, welcome. I am going to show you the bundle, and then we will get to our projects rather. So let me flip to my desk view here. There we go. All right, so Sunrise Sailing is actually a hybrid embossing folder bundle. So we have the stamp set. We've got our large sailboat with, it's a bit of a 2-step stamping set. So we've got some accents for the sails, and then to fill in the boat, we've got some sort of ripples in the water, and then some great sentiments. This one happens to be my favorite right now. For those who aren't aware, or maybe you are and you just want to hear me say it again, I just recently retired at the end of June from 30 years in the teaching profession. So happy retirement is my favorite sentiment right now. Looking forward to my first pension check being deposited at the end of the month. All right, so then we also have, as I said, the hybrid embossing folder. So for those who aren't aware, a hybrid embossing folder simply means you can use the embossing folder as it is, as a regular embossing folder. Or you can take the coordinating die, in this case, it's the sailboat. You nestle it in the lid. It kind of just clicks into the lid. So the lid is the side that has the Stampin' Up! Logo printed on it. You put your cardstock in there, you close it, and you run it through with the same sandwich that you would if you were using it just as an embossing folder. Okay, this is one of the thicker 3D folders. And when you are finished, you end up with a beautifully embossed sailboat as well as a scene. You're going to see that on our last project. We're going to use both the background and the sailboat. Okay, so that is the bundle. It is a great one. I've had lots of fun playing with it. So let's get to some projects here. Let's see who's here. Hi, Thea. Hi, Joyce. It's nice to see you. Hi, Felicia. Thank you, Alexina. People keep asking me how retirement is so far, and honestly, it feels a lot like summer holidays. I'm sure it will feel very, very different come September 2nd when I'm not sitting in a staff meeting, listening and watching all of our mandatory health and safety videos that I've watched for, 30 times now. So I'm looking forward to not watching those on September 2nd. So our first project we're going to make today is this one. I posted this earlier today. I love this one for a lot of reasons. I love the fact that the sailboat is kind of sailing off the label here, as though you're sailing off into the sunset headed for great things. So I'm going to show you how to put this one together. It is not hard, so it's a fairly quick and easy one. I like to start with quick and easy most weeks. So let's get to it here. So I'm going to start, well, actually, let me show you this background first. So here is just a basic white panel. It's 4 by 5¼ inches, and I've embossed it with the embossing folder. So I didn't use the die. So it looks just like a regular embossed image that you would get with any other embossing folder. Okay, so we're going to use that as our background. We're going to use this die cut label from the Textured Notes dies as our focal image. So I've die cut it from white cardstock. And we're going to start by stamping our sentiment, because we have to have an idea where our sentiment's going to go before we can design the rest of the focal image here. So let's get to, oh, we've had lots of people come in. I don't want to ignore people. So where are we here? All right. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Sonia. Thank you for sharing. Excuse me. Hi, Jean. Welcome. It's hot in Maryland as well. Yeah, I think the whole sort of eastern seaboard is quite warm. All right, so we're going to start with Poppy Parade. I'm using Poppy Parade actually on all three of our projects today because I just feel like it's a nice maritime red. And I'm going to stamp my You're Destined for Great Things in Poppy Parade in the upper left corner of my label here. Okay. All right, that may be a little high, but that's okay. Next, I'm going to come in and bring in my sailboat. So I've already stamped and die cut this ahead of time, just in the interest of keeping things moving today. And I'm going to add these sort of accent stripes to the sailboat. Now I need to move this a little closer to me because I can't look down when I am on video. Otherwise, you're going to see the top of my head. There we go. And I also need my solid. I could have sworn I took that out. Maybe I did not. Let's see. Is it still in the stamp case? Yes, it is indeed. Let's get that one mounted, and we're going to fill in our boat. I put the ink in, but I forgot to put the stamp in. All right, so we'll get rid of this. And we're going to pull in some basic gray ink, and we're going to fill in the boat here. Again, pulling it really close to me so I can actually see where I'm stamping. It's always a challenge doing this on camera. Oh, that's not too bad. It's not great, but it's all right. I can live with that. Okay, so that is our boat. And we're going to add that to the front of our label here. But first, we're going to add some waves. And I want to take care not to lose my little die cut birds. I need to mention the best thing about these dies. I knock my my adhesives everywhere. The dies come 3 birds on 1 die. I love it. I absolutely love it when Stampin' Up does this. It saves so much time. And who wants to mess with little itty bitty dies that cut these birds out, like individual ones? No, thank you. All right. So to create our waves here, I just have a couple of scraps of Coastal Cabana and basic white cardstock. So what I'm going to do to start is tear my Coastal Cabana. Now I should probably cut this down. I should have cut it down ahead of time. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll trim it after. So I'm going to tear this just down the length. Okay. And you're going to see one side is going to have, I'm not sure if you can see, it's a cleaner edge. This side has a bit of like a torn edge. It's sort of a little bit fuzzy. So we're going to put one in front of the, one in front of the other when we put these onto our card or onto our label. And then we're also going to tear along our basic white scrap here. And this is going to look like the white caps, right? The foam on the ocean. So we're going to layer them like this. Okay, but first we're going to stamp a little bit on our 2 Coastal Cabana pieces. I think I forgot to mount that one too. Good grief, Lena. You get me on holidays and retired and I can't remember anything. Let's get that one mounted. Again, I put the ink in, not the stamps. Not so smart. Okay. So we're going to just take and do a little bit of stamping. Sort of on, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do it the other way. There we go. And a little bit on here. Just like that. We're only going to need a little bit. We're not going to need the whole length of this. Okay. Now we're just going to start layering. So I'm going to start with my, actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to add my white torn strip behind my wider strip first. I grab my seal that went flying. So we're just going to layer that behind, just like that. And then this one is going to get layered a little bit higher, like that. So again, a little bit of seal. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pop that one up. Just realized I should have put some dimensionals on that instead. And then this one is going to get layered with some dimension. And you're going to see why when we go to put our boat on. It's going to give us that little bit of space that we can tuck our boat sort of in behind the waves. All right, now this is going to get glued onto the front of our label here, and then I'm going to trim off the excess because we certainly don't need all of that length. So let's add a little bit of seal here, and we're going to, oh, got to get rid of my backing on that dimensional. We're going to pop that on, just like that, and then I'm just going to flip this over and trim. Now you certainly could have started with pieces that were cut to length. I just grabbed some scraps from my scrap bin. Okay, so that gives you your background, and then you can nestle your boat. Except I stuck it down. Let's pry that up. There we go. Too much seal. We're going to tuck our boat sort of in behind the waves like that. Actually, I might put it in behind the first layer. I think I like that better. So we're going to tuck that in there. Yep, we're going to do that. So I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back of my sails here. And I'm not going to worry about any adhesive on the actual boat because it's going to get tucked in behind here and get glued down by the adhesive that's already on my blue layer, my Coastal Cabana layer. There we go. There's my boat. Okay. All right. Now that is going to get glued to our embossed white panel, just flat. So we're going to glue that right flat down. A little bit of liquid glue. Oh, we got a few more joining. Hi, Gail. Hi, Laura. Hi, Lauren from Philadelphia. Hi, Deb. Welcome, welcome. All right. So let's get this centered. Just like that. Now that is going to get layered on a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inch piece of Coastal Cabana cardstock. So that's going to get layered right on there. So again, I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue. And pop that on. There we go. And then that is going to get adhered to a Poppy Parade card base. 5.5 by 8.5, or sorry, 5.5. Yes. Wow. 5.5 by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. Goodness me. My brain has clearly already embraced retirement. Let's add a little bit of glue to this guy. And we'll pop it on. And you'll notice there's no bling on this. I was going for more masculine look. And the only accents we're going to add are our little die cut birds. Now these, as I mentioned, the die cuts all 3 at once. And I have used adhesive sheets on the back of these because they're a little bit of a pain to get glue on. They're so itty bitty. I actually don't like fussing with little bits of glue. If you've watched any of my videos, you're probably well aware of that. I complain about it all the time. Let's put this guy up here. And then we'll add our last one. Maybe down here a bit. There we go. There's our first card. I almost put the yikes. There we go. Done and done. Number 1 finished. Now on the inside, I did add a white layer. I stamped the sailboat again, added a best wishes sentiment, and that could be used for anything. Retirement, graduation, whatever, right? Okay, so that is number 1 done. Let me make a little room here. And we will pull in number 2. So still going with a masculine nautical vibe. We have this one. This one reminds me of little boys' sailor suits. I don't know why, but that's what this reminds me of. So this one's a little bit more involved. I'm going to show you how I did this kind of cool sort of life preserver look on the sentiment label. So let's get to this one. So I'm going to pull out my bits here. And we're going to do a little bit of ink blending to start. So I have here an Azure Afternoon circle that's been die cut using the Spotlight on Nature dies. I think this is the largest or second largest that has this sort of dot dash border. Make sure I got all my bits poked out. Okay. And that's going to kind of house our scene here. So we're going to do a little bit of inking because I wanted my sky and ocean to contrast. So I'm going to bring in some Blueberry Bushel ink and my blending brush. And we're going to do a little bit of ink blending on the embossed portion of this circle. So I just ran this through the embossing folder, the coordinating embossing folder, but only did like the bottom portion so that I got like the ocean and then I've got the sky up above. Okay. And by adding that darker ink, it kind of gives me a little bit of contrast so that my water doesn't look the same as the sky. Okay. All right. So that is that. Next, we are going to work on our sailboats. So there are two smaller sailboat dies. So these are the boats, and then we have the sails. Okay, so first we're going to do a little bit of ink blending around the edges of our boats or our sails, and I'm going to do the clouds at the same time because we're going to use all the same shade of ink, just so they're not quite so stark white. So I'm going to take just a little. And we're just lightly, it's going to almost not be noticeable until we actually put it against the white background. So I'm just adding the teeniest hint of gray around the edges of the sails. You could do this with sponge dauber as well, if you have those handy. And then same thing on my clouds, just a little hint of gray because not every cloud is white, and I wanted them to stand out a little bit against my white background. Oops, yep, that's right. Thought I was doing the not so nice side of my die cut. There we go. Okay, so just a little hint of gray. All right. Now I'm going to bring back that same stripe accent stamp. So this is the one that we used on the large sail. But we can actually use it to add some accents to this smaller sail here as well. Now I need to clean my stamp. Where did I put my Gotta make sure this is clean because we're going to do a little creative stamping here. So what I'm going to do is actually ink just the top two stripes here with Poppy Parade ink. So we're going to go ahead and so I'm going to put my ink pad down and I'm just going to look on, I can look through my stamp, right? Photopolymer, you can see through. So I've only inked the top two stripes there. And then I'm going to come in, and again, I'm going to actually stamp on the edge of this because I need some contrast for my old eyes. I can't see white on white very well. So there we go. There's that side. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on this sail, but with these two stripes. So again, I'm going to clean this. I always like to stamp a couple times to make sure it's dry. And then I'm now going to ink the other two stripes here. And only those two. And I'm going to come in and stamp them on the right side. There we go. Let me get some little stripes on our smaller sails. Okay, so you can use that stamp for more than just the large sailboat. All right, now let's assemble our boats here. So this is convenient because we can actually just layer our sail right on there. So that's intentional. Makes it easier to assemble our little boat. So I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue there and just layer that on top. Okay, so there's boat number one. And then this little guy, I'm not going to stamp any accents on this one. I'm just going to leave it white. It's kind of in the background. And we'll layer this one. Just like that. Whoops, come on. There we go. Okay, and then before we add our boats to our circle, we're actually going to stamp some birds. So there is a bird stamp as well as the bird dies in this set. So I'm going to stamp some seagulls just in some black ink. Now I'm going to stamp this one a little bit more to the side because on this one, the seagull looks like he's kind of on top, sitting on top of the sailboat. So we're going to offset them a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now let's put together our scene here. So we're going to add our larger boat is going to go at the front, at the forefront, and it's going to get popped. Almost out of dimensionals. Story of my life. Do you know how many times I say that in a day? I'm always almost out of dimensionals. Oh dear. I've got a couple of half minis here. I'm going to use them up at the top where it's a little bit narrower. And then as well on the bottom part of the boat. The hull, I guess it is. I'm not a sailor. In fact, I get seasick just looking at water. I love looking at water, but I am not good on it. That said, I do enjoy cruises, which is funny. I don't usually feel ill while cruising. All right, so there is boat number 1. This one is going to get glued flat, so I'm going to add just a little bit of liquid glue. And we're going to pop it sort of in the background here. Oh, that's going to be much better, so we don't have a bird coming out of the top of the mast there. Okay, and then we're going to assemble our background. So to start, I have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock, and I have embossed it using the Soft Waves embossing folder. I love this folder. It's so pretty. And then I have a 1.5 by 5 1/4 inch strip of Poppy Parade cardstock that I have run through with the Pattern of Friendship die. This is this large die. Let me just pull it in here. It's right here. It's a large striped background die. And so you can do a whole like 6 by 6 piece of cardstock and get lots of strips that you can use on projects. Or you can just do a little one, whatever makes you happy. So this is going to get glued 3/4 of an inch in from the right side. Now, when gluing strips with this sort of die cut, these little dots, you want to make sure you use tape, don't use liquid glue. Ask me how I knew. You will have a sticky mess because the liquid glue will ooze through the holes. And yeah, but just don't do it. Okay. All right. So there is our background. Now we can go ahead and arrange our pieces. So we have our focal image, and then we've got our little clouds. Our little clouds are going to kind of hang out in behind and overlap a little bit. It's kind of like that. So I'm going to just tuck my first cloud in behind before we glue our piece on. And then we'll add a little, actually I'm going to use liquid glue with all that embossing. We're going to pop that one on. Right about there. And then our smaller cloud is going to go on right about there. And then we have this fun little life preserver look. So this is, again, the smallest circle from the Spotlight on Nature dies that has this dot dash pattern, okay? And all I've done is taken some red and white baker's twine and threaded it through the dashes. So to get this look, you have to always come up from the back, okay? Now, another tip, baker's twine tends to separate. So I just wrapped a little bit of washi tape around the end so that it doesn't fray and separate and frustrate the heck out of me as I'm trying to weave this through. Actually, before I finish this, I'm going to stamp my Ahoy before we get too far along. It's just easier to do it when it's not completely threaded through. So I'm going to come back with my Blueberry Bushel ink and my stamp, and we're just going to stamp Ahoy on our circle. And then we can go ahead and finish wrapping our... I started this because it can be a little bit tedious to watch, so I didn't want you guys to have to sit and watch me do my little weaving trick here. But each time you come up, you're always coming up from the back. Okay, and that will give you that wrapped effect. And a couple more. Okay, so now we're going to just bring this across the back, and I've already got a glue dot there that I started with. So I'm just going to press the end into that glue dot, trim off my excess, and there is my fun little life preserver sentiment. Okay, all right, so that is going to get popped up on our card front. Look at that, I have like 3 dimensionals left. just enough to finish my card. So we'll get rid of our backings. And we're going to tuck this in right about there. Okay, and then that is going to get adhered to a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of Poppy Parade cardstock. So again, a little bit of glue. Oh, hi Sharon, hi Krista, hi Jamie. Oh, Kim, you like that look? I like that look too. It's kind of fun. And as soon as I saw these dies, I knew that at some point I was going to want to do this kind of effect. Kind of neat. It looks good for like sort of rustic cards too with linen thread. There you go. Okay, and then that is going to get adhered to an Azure Afternoon card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So we'll go ahead and crisp that up and add a little bit of glue. And we'll pop that on there. There we go. And then the last little touch, I felt like it needed just a little hint of brass. So these are the flower accents. They're actually from the Kintsugi suite. They're actually currently out of stock. This is literally all I have left. But I have just enough to be able to add just a couple of little sort of brass buttons. So think sailor suit along this bottom, sort of following around the edge of the focal image here. Just like that. And there we go. Just a little touch of brass. You like that one? All right, let's get these out of the way. I think I'm done with that and that. So much ink. Okay, so that is that one. Moving on. Okay, so now I decided because this stamp set or this bundle is called Sunrise Sailing, I had to do something with a sunrise. So I'm going to show you how to create a sunrise effect, sunrise background for your sailboat. Okay, you're going to be alarmed at how few supplies are required. Well, I should say how a few pieces of cardstock. Literally, we have a card base. We have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white. We have a little strip, 1/2 inch strip, and then we've got our 3 little die cut secret seabirds, and that is it. That's all the paper requirements you need for this card. I am going to move most of the pieces out of the way for now because we're going to do some coloring and then we're going to do some ink blending. So I'm going to start with my sailboat. So first of all, I stamped this in Memento Black, just on my piece of white cardstock. And then I ran it through the hybrid embossing folder. So this is what you end up with. You end up with an emboss. I'll turn it over so you can see the embossing. An embossed sailboat, and then the embossed background. Okay. All right. So now we are going to start by coloring our sailboat. We'll do our background in a minute, but we're going to start by coloring the sailboat. I'm just using Stampin' Blends to color it. You certainly could, there's all kinds of ways you could color this, but I decided to just use blends because they are my favorite coloring medium. So I'm coloring the sails first. So I'm going to put down a layer of light Poppy Parade. I'm all about the Poppy Parade today. It is my nautical red, at least in my mind it is. I'm sure any red would work. It just works in my mind. So I'm starting with a layer of light, filling in that whole sail. And then I'm going to come in with the dark, and I'm going to add some shadow along the bottom and sort of right along the mask here where that shading is, and then a little bit at the top. Okay, and then I'm going to come down and blend that again with my light. Now I'm not going to blend over entirely. I do want to leave a little bit of it lighter. That's going to give us some dimension. I'll just blend that all out. Okay, so there is my first sail. Same thing on this side. So start with my light. And then add some shadow with the dark. I'm actually going to add a little bit more on this side. And then again, blend that out with the light. Okay, so there are my sails. And then for the hull, I'm going to come in with some light gray granite. So I'm going to color the entire hull with light gray granite. And then add some dark, so some dark shading kind of along the bottom. And then again, blend that out with the light. Okay, now the big thing, now you can actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait and let you guys decide. I have something that I want to ask you, but I'm going to wait until later. All right, I'm going to hold on to these. I'm going to set these ones aside. And now we're going to work on our background. Okay, so again, this is the sort of negative from the hybrid embossing folder. And we are going to do a bunch of ink blending to create our sunrise or sunset. But since this is called sunrise sailing, we're going to call this a sunrise. And I'm going to show you what I'm using for my colors. So to create the sunrise or sunset, I'm using crushed curry, pumpkin pie, and cherry cobbler. So whenever I'm doing this, I always work from light to dark. Okay, so I'm going to start with my crushed curry. I also need a Post-it note to mask off the waves because we don't want to color our waves, right? We want them to be a different color. We're going to add our color to the waves in a little bit. So I'm just going to run this now. This works best if you get it straight. So let me just take a minute and get this on somewhat straight across like that. Okay, so we are going to be inking just this side to create our sky. So I'm going to start with my crushed curry. Make some room. Now you want to be really careful when you're working on these little bits here because they are quite delicate. So I'm going to be quite gentle as I'm coming across those. And I'm going to just apply my ink in a circular motion with my blending brush. Whoops, you stay there, you. Okay, so you do have to be quite careful with these little guys here. There we go. A little bit more up here. I want this bottom portion to be fairly dark yellow. There we go. Okay, so that's our yellow. Then we're going to come in with some pumpkin pie. And I'm going to come in from the sides. I'm not going to do any of the orange right along the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to come in from the sides and around and across the top. Now, I should mention, you do not have to use these exact shades. Any yellow, any orange, and any red will give you a similar effect. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy all of the inks to do this. You can even get away with just a yellow and a red because wherever the red and yellow overlap, it's going to read as orange. So you do not have to use all of the same inks that I'm using here. You'll still get a really great sunrise or sunset effect. Okay, so there's our pumpkin pie. And then, oh, Thea, I'm glad you like them. I'm going to come in with cherry cobbler at the end. Now, the cherry cobbler is the one we're going to use the least of. And again, I'm going to avoid the bottom sort of portion. I just really want the red kind of wrapping around the top. So I'm going to start in this upper corner. And we're going to darken down along the top. This is really hard to do when I'm on camera because when I was doing this on my desk, I could move and turn to get the right angle with my blending brush. This is a little bit of a challenge. One that I'm up for, but it is a bit of a challenge. Okay, now I'm feeling like this is a little bit light on these two on this side, so I'm going to come back with just, actually I need a little bit more red across the top too. Not quite red enough just yet. There we go. That's better. I'm going to come in with the crushed curry again, just to darken down the area around the sails there. Just feel like it's not quite yellow enough. So we're going to come back with this and a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's better. Much better. Okay. All right, so that is our sky. It's that easy. It's really just layering on ink. Now we're going to take off our Post-it and we're going to flip it around and we're going to apply ink to the bottom portion to darken our waves. Now, when you're doing this, you want the edge of your Post-it to be just a hair up from the edge of the yellow color that you've got down. Okay, that is so that there's a bit of overlap and you don't get a gap. Okay, if you try to line it up exactly, you're going to have a little bit of a gap of white where the blending brush bumps over the Post-it note. Okay, all right, so I'm going to come in with some Secret Sea ink. And I want this to be darkest at the bottom, so I'm going to come in across the bottom first and up the sides. A little more ink. And I do want this to be quite dark. Okay, so I'm going to add quite a bit of ink. Oh, there we go. Now we're cooking. I just was being a little too gentle with the ink. Down a bit. There we go. All right. Let's get these out of the way. We'll take off our Post-it note. Whoopsie. And there we have our beautiful background. You like that? Okay, now if I look at my sample, do you see how I've got like little bits of white here, a little bit of white cap on my waves? So to do that, I'm going to bring in a sanding block. So Stampin' Up! Long time ago used to carry sanding blocks. I hope they bring them back now that we've got two-tone cardstock, but I still have mine from forever ago. So I'm just going to very lightly sand across the bottom portion, the waves here, where I just inked. And what that's going to do is just lift off a little bit of that bottom or of that of the ink and reveal some of the white cardstock underneath and give me the look of white caps. There we go. There's my ocean. Do you like that? Isn't that a cool effect? You get the same effect with our two-tone cardstock, but you won't get be able to do the blended look, right? If I put a piece of Secret Sea, you could cut a piece of Secret Sea cardstock, two-tone, and get the same effect. But I like just using white and adding my ink. I love playing with ink. All right, now it's just a matter of putting this together. It's super easy. So our card base is 4 1/4 by 11 Secret Sea and scored at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that in half along our score line. And then we're going to apply some ink to our background. Or not ink, glue. Not ink. We've already applied plenty of ink. Time for glue. So I just want to take care to make sure I get a little bit of glue on these little pieces here so that they don't pry up. And we're going to pop that on. And I love the way the sunset background pops against this dark Secret Sea card base. Just make sure those guys stick down too. There we go. All right. Now we're going to add our boat. Now, let me show you. So here I have no white borders. Here I have a white border. Do you see what a big difference it makes to shade in the borders on this? Okay, so this is the way it was when we die cut it. But we're going to go ahead and color around the frame of the image so that it blends with our background. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to come in with a little bit of Daffodil Delight. This is dark Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to color the space sort of between the sails. And then we're going to go all the way around the boat. Now this wasn't perfectly centered when I die cut it, so I've got a really narrow little border here and a wider one on the other side. But that's okay. Doesn't matter, because it's all going to just blend into the background anyway. There we go. Now, when you are doing the around the hull, you're going to want to kind of nestle this into the opening there like a puzzle piece, because you want it to be yellow up to the edge of the horizon there, right? So kind of to there. So I'm just going to mark that. And then we're going to color the rest of it below the water with a Secret Sea blend so that it blends into the ocean. Okay, so there is the top portion, and then I'm going to come in with this one. This is Light Secret Sea, and I'm just going to fill in this bottom portion. And this is actually quite easy to do because it's embossed, remember? So it kind of keeps things, keeps the tip of the marker where you want it. You don't really run the risk of going outside the lines, so to speak. There we go. Now that is going to look so much better, doesn't it? All right, now we're going to pop this up. I'm going to use the edges of my dimensionals because that's all I've got left. So we'll just snip some edge pieces here. And I'm going to grab a couple of minis for the hull. We'll go one there. And two. And a three. And we'll get rid of our backings. Now, when I put this on, I actually intentionally offset it just a smidge because I wanted to see a little bit of that dark background kind of peeking out. Almost a little bit of an eclipse effect. Just like that. There you go. Doesn't that look amazing? All right, now we're going to stamp a couple. No, we're not. We're going to add our die cut Secret Sea birds. So there are two birds already as part of the embossed image. So we're just going to put two right over top of those embossed birds because we don't want yellow birds. We want dark colored birds against that vibrant sky. So we'll add those guys. And then our last one is going to go over here. Oops. Just like that. And then we're going to add our sentiment. So our sentiment is just stamped on a 1/2 inch by 4 inch strip. Just, you know, those leftover bits that you get when you die cut 4 by 5 1/4 inch pieces. Not die cut, cut. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment, congratulations, in Secret Sea ink on my little strip here. Let's see if we can find one that's a little less inky. There we go. And then I'm just going to take my snips and angle cut the ends here. So there's the one. And if you are wanting to get the same angle, you can take and layer that on there. I just tend to eyeball it, to be honest. I don't worry too much about getting them exact. And we're going to pop that up again with an edge piece. For more dimensionals. Oh, I was not quite. Oh, look, there's one more dimensional. Perfect. I can fill in that little gap there. And we'll pop that on just about there. That's straight-ish. Yeah, not bad. You like that one? All right. You like them? Oh, you like them. Oh, good. I'm glad you like them. All right, let me bring back all the others. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. And I have a really messy grid paper. I have a couple more to share with you. So this one I posted yesterday. This one uses that sailboats or harbor image. It's kind of an impressionist, reminds me a little bit of Monet's paintings, from the Beautiful Gallery DSP pack. So I just die cut a rectangle from the larger piece and then layered it behind a little bit of pecan pie to pop up my sailboat. But I love the way that that works with that paper. And then here's another one. I decided it was time to do a horizontal card. I've been doing all vertical cards, portrait cards. So this one's in landscape. This one uses these border dies. So I did not mention those. So we have 2 border dies that are included with the die set to give us these sort of bubbly, wavy borders. So there's that one. And then here's another retirement card because, couldn't resist, where I did a similar effect to what I did here, but this time I actually used blending brushes to color my sailboat rather than Stampin' Blends. And I did not stamp the sailboat image. I just used the die cut blank. Okay. Cloud cover on the sky, secret sea on the sea. All right. There you go. You like those? Okay, I'm glad you like them. Thanks, everybody. Let's just see if there's any questions. Okay, looks like... Okay, I don't think there's any questions. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. Let me just get back to me. Here we go. So if you are in Canada and you have not yet shopped my BOGO sale, it is still going on. There are still some amazing bundles and stamps available. Most of my accessories, papers, embellishments are all gone. But I have loads of amazing bundles and amazing stamp sets that are still available in my BOGO sale. So if you are in Canada, sorry, US, I can't ship across the border. Not allowed. Stampin' Up says it's a no-no. So I am more than happy to have you take some of my leftover retired product and give it a new home. You get your retired product free with a new product equivalent value order. Okay, so check out my BOGO sale. You can find it in the link that is posted where it says find my links here. You will, if you click that, you will see a link to the sale. And the sale closes on Friday at 10 p.m. I'm not staying up till 11, 10 p.m. on Friday. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.